What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be reviewing 5 newly released models from a new kind of toy and model manufacturer. So the first thing that I want to address before going over any information about these models or their brand is that these are not actually Daron Realtoy models or any model company brand related to it. So back here, I have a WestJet 737-800 that is a Daron Realtoy model that I will be using to compare to these new kinds of models. So since these are not Daron Realtoy models, I would definitely say that these are sort of knockoff models, such as the eco-growth models that were introduced, I believe, sometime last year. So these new models that I'm going to be reviewing are not actually eco-growth models, but they are some completely different brand that I've never heard of until I purchased these models and originally found out about them. I believe it was around 2 weeks ago now. So without further ado, the first two models I'll be reviewing are two Southwest Airlines models, which are also special liveries. So the first one I have is the Southwest Airlines Freedom 1 Livery 737-800, and then the second model is the Southwest Airlines Tennessee 1 737-800. So these two models, as far as I know of, have never been produced as a toy before. Well, yes, I have these in my collection, Daron Realtoyplanes and stuff. I don't use them as a toy or think of them as that, but that's what these are produced as. As far as I know of, these have only been produced as a sort of Gemini Jet NG model or Phoenix models or any sort of realistic model that is definitely expensive. So these are definitely models that I know a lot of real toy collectors have wanted to have been produced for a long time, which is why I want to get this video out as soon as these models had arrived. So the other three models I'll be reviewing are the Alaska Airlines West Coast Wonders Livery 737 MAX 9, or pretty much just 737 in the 800 mold, but the livery design is for the MAX 9. Then there is the Azul 737. I guess you could just say this is a 737-800 in the Brazilian flag livery. So this is one of the models that are produced as an aircraft that the livery design is not actually used on. The Brazilian flag livery is used on, I believe, the Embraer E190s, A321neos, and the A330s. So Azul doesn't even have the 737 in their fleet, which is why this is a good example of one of the models that are produced of an aircraft that doesn't actually exist. So the last model that I will be reviewing is the Delta Airlines 737 in the 800 mold in the classic Delta Widget livery. So this particular livery was the one that was used on the Delta 767, which was the first 767 that Delta Airlines had ever purchased under the registration number November 102 Delta Alpha. So there's also the 767 that is at the Delta Flight Museum as well, and that is the particular livery that this one has, and you could definitely tell because it has the spirit of Delta on it, and then the 102 number for the registration number up at the top. But this was a personal preference model that I wanted to get just because I really like the Delta Airlines liveries, and I thought this livery looked really nice on this particular model. And the other four I got because I definitely know those are going to be the most popular ones out of the models that this brand produces. So the Delta one was just more of a personal preference, but there definitely are plenty other models that this brand produces. So before I get into any other information about these models, I want to give a huge shout out to Realtoyplanes on Instagram for helping me get these models and pretty much just telling me that they exist, because if it wasn't for him, I definitely would have found out about these models a lot later and probably would have missed out on getting a lot of them. So for this part of the video, I'll just take out the WestJet 737 just so that way I can showcase these 5 models right here. So I'm sure the main question that all of you have is, where can I get these models? So as far as I know of right now, these models are available off of 2 main websites. They're available off of both Amazon, and I personally got them off of Temu, which I know Temu definitely isn't a most favorite website and can be really sketchy at times. But these models were a lot cheaper to get off of Temu than they were off of Amazon. And I know this sometimes is the whole you get what you pay for thing, and they're cheaper usually means lower quality. But honestly, when these models arrived, I couldn't see any difference between ones that would have been bought off of Amazon anyway. So just to show the differences between the prices. So if you get these off of Amazon, the Freedom 1 737 is currently the most expensive one. This model off of Amazon is currently listed for $22, while I got it for $14 off of Temu. And then one of the other more expensive ones is, of course, the other Southwest model, the Tennessee one. This one on Amazon is $19, while I got it for $9.50 off of Temu. The Azul 737 I got for $14.30 off of Temu when it usually is $18 on Amazon. The Alaska 737 isn't even available on Amazon, neither is the Delta 737. The Alaska 737 is still available off of Temu for $10.50, but unfortunately, when I last looked before I started this video, the Delta 737 was currently out of stock and I couldn't really find any other information on it. I don't know if this is permanent or not, but I'll try to see if there is any other listings for it anywhere else, and I'll try to have a link to that posted in the description. So personally, if anyone feels more comfortable buying these models off of Amazon, go right ahead and you can do that, except it will be a lot more expensive. Temu, even though it is a sketchy website, it definitely is, in my opinion, a better option because you can get these models for the price of a normal Daron plane without having to pay a whole lot extra for it. So the main thing that I realized about these models when I was first searching for them is that they are definitely hard to find if you are just trying to Google them, because they have very odd titles that aren't specific at all. So I have the links to each and every one of these models I have posted in the description of this video. I have both the Amazon links and the Temu links for those who want to get off of either Temu or Amazon. I have the links to both websites and these models directly posted in the description of this video. So the brand and the company that distributes these models, I really have no idea if I'm saying this right, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced as Aviamuse. It's kind of the beginning of aviation and then like muse at the end. So like I said, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I've never heard about these models or the company until I had just found out about these 2 weeks ago, and then I pretty much bought them as soon as I could. And then they arrived last week, but I never had a chance to actually review them until now. So the main thing I want to say about these models and why I have all the links posted in the description of this video is that I would highly suggest getting these models as soon as you can, because of the fact that the type of brand that is producing these models and how just kind of like really knockoff it is, and how really random the company and the brand of these models are. And I will show here the boxes that they came in. They're really nothing special. The boxes that each of these 5 models came in are really just this tiny white square that has a tiny barcode up here on the top here with the airline listed on it, and that's pretty much the only identification to tell what model is inside the box. The Southwest ones do have the airline, has Southwest, and then the registration number for the specific livery. So like, for example, the registration number for the box of the Southwest Freedom 1 had Southwest Airlines, and then the registration number N500WR. So there really isn't much identification for them, and then all the other details on the back are pretty much the same. This one was for the Azul 737, and I actually had taken the original sticker off. This is the original sticker that comes on the other boxes. This one is for the Delta 737. I had taken the sticker off just to see what was underneath it, and all the information is pretty much exactly the same, so I'm not really sure why they covered it up. The only thing I saw that was pretty much different was that the production date on the actual box that is printed onto it is September 20th, 2023. And then the model production that is on the sticker on the box is March 20th, 2024. So I'm really not sure what the deal is with that and why these are so banged up too. So like I said, I got these models off of Temu, and when they arrived, they were all kind of bunched up in like a bag. They were all of these planes were in the box and inside a bag. So inside the box, they did have a little tiny bit of protection. Each of the planes were individually put in one of these tiny plastic bags. So this was the only protection that each of the planes had. And the Delta 737 had a hole. The one had a hole in it. The winglet was poking out of the bag and even out of the box, which is what I have displayed right here. The boxes are really banged up. This one was for the Delta 737, as you see there, just like the Southwest ones, has the airline and then the registration number right after it. That's the only sort of identification for what plane is in the box. So, yeah, these definitely are not really packaged well at all, and definitely very fragile models. So, For around, I believe it's for 3 of the models out of the 5 I have here, they all have these really wobbly horizontal stabilizers. So right here, such as the Azul 737, it is definitely like pretty much ready to come off. I will have to glue it, but each of them are really wobbly, and I'm not really sure why it's really just specifically the horizontal stabilizers. The wings itself are pretty much fine. The landing gear on the models I have are pretty much alright, but the main thing is that the horizontal stabilizers are pretty much ready to come off on most of these models. Freedom 1, I think, is pretty much good, as well as either Tennessee 1, no, definitely not Tennessee 1. I believe Alaska has some, yeah, Alaska has good horizontal stabilizers, but for Delta, Tennessee 1, and Azul, they all have these messed up horizontal stabilizers that I definitely probably either need to take off and glue, or just try to see if I can glue them right there. So, I'm not sure if I mentioned this about these models before, but each of these models are fully painted. So I'm not sure if I really would say fully painted because they definitely have a print on them. Southwest, right here, you can kind of tell in the logo, which is why it's kind of blurry and not just straightforward. They have a very odd texture to the print on them. They're not just like normal paint as they are on the rest of the main base color of the plane. They all have this really kind of weird texture to the print on it. Overall, I mean, it's not a sticker, so the sticker is not going to come off, and there's really no way to take it off unless you want to, like, specifically try to. But the main thing about, just like I said before, about the Realtoy and Daron models, about painted models, is that there definitely is a lot more room for misprints. And that was definitely the case for quite a few of these models. Unfortunately, for the 5 of these, Azul was the most expensive one out of them, and it has the most misprints out of all of them. As you can see here, there's some weird paint mark on the back, and then throughout the rest of the plane there's 2, and then like up here in the cockpit window, they printed out one of the airline's logos up on top of the cockpit window. The other side is pretty much alright, but the main thing too is the cockpit windows. The cockpit windows are very crooked, are on I believe two to 3 of these models, the cockpit windows are pretty crooked. Alaska has a relatively crooked cockpit window, as well as Freedom 1, but the Tennessee 1 and Delta 737s are pretty good. The other thing I did notice about these models is that the prints are very low on some of them. For example, the Delta 737 has a print that is a lot lower than the center of the fuselage, while Freedom 1 has a print that is actually not Freedom 1. Tennessee 1 has a print that is sort of actually in the middle of the plane. That definitely looks a lot more realistic. So going back to the brand that these models are produced from. So Aviamuse, I'm still not sure if I'm saying that right. They have, over the past couple weeks, they have came out with several newer models. Even since I just got these, they came out with some sort of Alaska Airlines More to Love 737 livery design, which definitely does not look realistic. It's got some issues with it, but it's kind of cool and bad at the same time. But they also came out with a New Mexico 1 livery in Southwest Airlines, which I definitely need to try to get in the future. So like I said before, I would definitely try to get these models as soon as possible because of the fact that the brand is, honestly, I just said that the brand is very sketchy, and the models and the fact that they're only distributed off of 2 websites, it is definitely a possibility that this brand, company, whatever, will get shut down relatively soon, and that these models will kind of disappear. And as more people start seeing and finding out about these, and especially Daron Realtoy collectors, as everyone's going to want a Southwest Freedom 1 toy model, either for their collections or just to get for like a kid or someone, these models are definitely going to sell out fast. So, unfortunately, I can't really say anything for if you're seeing this video in a year from me posting it, because I really have no idea if these models are still going to even be in production. But as soon as you see this video, I would definitely suggest looking into buying these models, because I really have no idea how long they're going to be in production for, or how long they will be available. Right before I started this video, I tried looking at the listings for these, and I saw that quite a few of them only had around 10 left in stock, and they're definitely going to sell it fast. For example, like I also mentioned, the Delta 737, right now, it is currently out of stock. I'm not sure if it's going to come back or not, but right now, this one is currently out of stock on both Amazon and off of Temu. But if I do see it, I will let you guys know. So, several other airlines that this company produces, they do not just produce special liveries or kind of retro liveries like the Delta one. They also have normal planes such as KLM in their normal blue livery 737. They have a Qatar 737, Aer Lingus 737, United 737, American 737. Just some generic airlines like that, and they also have some other special liveries. For example, they have the KLM Orange Pride livery, which I really like that model. That was one of the more expensive ones, but the only reason I didn't get it was because right where the orange mixed in with the blue, they had like a purple line in the middle, which I really don't understand why. But another special livery that they have is they have the JetBlue special livery 737, which I did not also get because that livery is used on A321, and it just, to me, that one looked really cursed. And then they also have a Spirit Pride livery 737, which has another one to me that looks cursed because Spirit does not have 737s in their fleet. But they also have another kind of model other than just the 737 molds, but in my opinion, those are even more cursed than anything before because they are some weird 737 and A380 like crossbred model, which I don't suggest getting those. There's an Emirates one and an Air Force one of those models. So if you want to look around and see what models that this brand produces as, you can definitely see all those in the links that I have posted in the description of this video, and you can find them relatively easy once you click on those links. So I feel like I pretty much went over all the information for these models and their brand. There really is nothing else for me to say. So I'll try to get into the review of these models. So I guess I will start off with the Freedom 1 737. So like I mentioned before, all of these and the prints on them have this really weird texture to it. It's this very like rough texture that reminds me of the texture on lots of the older Realtoy models and their wings, such as the United Battleship Gray 747, and that weird matte finish on their wings is definitely what this reminds me of. So right here, once again, I have the WestJet 737. This is the Daron Realtoy model. So as you can see, size-wise, they are pretty much exactly the same. The same width, height, and length, whatever. Everything is pretty much exactly the same. The main difference between the actual model is that the Daron Realtoy ones have this more extended part on the tail, while these other models do not have anything. It's really just the tail put onto the fuselage. So definitely for that way, the Daron ones look a little bit more realistic for that part, but so starting off here for the review of the front of the plane. So as you can see, there is the silver, or really kind of more white than silver cockpit windows. Like I said, these ones are crooked, unfortunately. Not all of them are going to be crooked. Each one is going to have their own kind of quirks to them. But unfortunately, this one did happen to have crooked cockpit windows. There is the blue part of the American flag that goes along the front part of the fuselage, pretty much where the main landing gear meets all the way to the nose of the plane. And then you have it intersects with the red right there. They definitely did a really good job at painting between the engines and then the actual fuselage. So between the red and then the blue, and especially on the engines there as well. And then they have the entire American flag print throughout the back of the plane all the way up onto the front. They did a really good job with putting the each of the stars on there as well. I was very surprised when I saw that they had put them on the bottom as well. Unfortunately, on the back here, kind of where the stripes of the flag kind of meet, there is a little bit of red showing down at the bottom where it get kind of crossed. But other than that, it really isn't too bad. Going further along the plane, you can see there are the cabin windows, which just like on the Delta 737 model, these are very low on the plane for some reason, but fortunately for the Freedom 1, I didn't notice that as much because there is all the other details on the livery design that kind of makes up for it. But I mean, they really did a great job with getting the details in for the lighter gray portion on the American flag to kind of represent the shadow of it and make it have more of that wavy pattern to it. And then, like I also mentioned before, there is the other details right here. There's supposed to be writing there, which kind of just all kind of mushed all together into one glob of something, but it is really nice that they actually included some sort of detail that represents where that writing used to be. Then there is the first main cabin door with the details right in the middle there. Then there is their heart logo, the Southwest Airlines heart logo displayed right there. The emergency exits, The emergency exit's right there on the middle portion of the fuselage by the wings, and then the rear cabin door, which for some reason is really far back on the plane. And then there is the registration number right there, which is N500WR, which is a registration number for the Freedom 1 737-800. So then there is the Southwest Airlines, their tail livery design that they have on all their special liveries. This one, they have included all the Southwest Airlines livery colors, with the yellow up at the top going into the red stripe, and then the blue Southwest on the bottom with the American flag included right there as well. So the main thing about this plane also that I wasn't a fan of was, of course, the landing gear. I mean, the most thing was the box, but on the plane itself, it was the main landing gear. Just because, considering the Realtoy models, they just roll a lot better than the ones on these Aviamuse models, and to me, they even look a little bit more realistic. These ones, there's no details on the main landing gear, no logos for the manufacturer or anything, and then there is really just these awkward screws that are kind of just placed in the plane to connect the fuselage to the other portion of the plane. I might actually try with one of these models to see if I could take these screws out and separate the fuselage from the plane. I'm not going to try on Freedom 1, but maybe on one of the other ones, just to see, because I definitely know Realtoy models you can't do that because everything is kind of like bolted together, so you can't really do that. But since these are all just screws that you can just, it seems like you could just take out and put back in, it definitely seems like it's a possibility. That could also be good for making custom models. So to kind of compare these, at least for the Freedom 1, to compare between the Daron model and this one. So one of the main things that I kind of couldn't really decide on which I like better was the details in the engines. So obviously the Daron Realtoy ones have the nice details on the fan blades and stuff, but to me the Aviamuse models have a little bit more details on the fan blades. They have more depth to them and seem to have a lot more texture and details than the Daron Realtoy ones seem to have. But overall, both of them do have their advantages and disadvantages to them. But I think the engines are pretty much alright. The details, at least for the fan blades. Engines itself, I definitely would say are better on the Realtoy models because the Aviamuse models are really, the cowlings on them are just really large, and I think they're definitely too big for the actual engines. Winglet wise, I think both Realtoy and the Aviamuse models are pretty good. Aviamuse definitely has a lot larger winglets, which I'm not sure if that's more realistic or not, considering it depends on what the models are produced as. Cockpit windows definitely would go to the Realtoy ones because they're definitely a lot less likely to be crooked, and to me they're a lot more detailed as well. Yeah, for the wings, both of them have the same general details on them, apart from the fact that there's the different texture on the Aviamuse model. And to me, the lines for the details on the flaps on the wings are a lot more refined on the Aviamuse model. Once again, I'm not really sure if I consider that to be better or even worse than the Realtoy ones, but they are very, very similar. And then, of course, you have the details right here on the undercarriage between the main landing gear. I definitely like the Realtoy ones a lot better because the wheels roll a lot better, and I just like the overall design of them better as well. So, I mean, overall, they're really similar to the Daron Realtoy models. And quality-wise, the benefit to these is that they are fully painted. And even if they really just have a print on it and they're not actually painted, they still are definitely better than the stickers models, despite the fact that they're going to have a lot more possibilities for misprints. So moving on to the next model, I will try to get through the rest of these relatively quick. Moving on to the other Southwest model. This is the Tennessee 737-800. This one has perfect cockpit windows compared to the Freedom 1. These ones are not crooked. They have the first main cabin door. The cabin windows are perfectly placed, centered throughout the fuselage. You got the whole entire plane pretty much painted in the red coloring with the blue design in kind of towards the center of the fuselage for their 3 stars, and the blue and white for the Tennessee flag, the Tennessee state flag. Really nice details on the engines to match up along with the blue logos on the middle portion of the fuselage. And then towards the back, there is the registration number for the Tennessee 737-800. This was one of the planes that was recently updated to be on the 737-800 and was originally on the 737-700, but the registration number for this one is for the 800, which is N8620H, and then there is the Southwest Airlines logos on the tail. Another thing about this livery I really liked is how they kind of added the Southwest blue going along to the rest of, throughout the rest of the portion of the plane. Unfortunately, on the bottom, it definitely is noticeable for where the kind of logos definitely had some weird intersection right there, kind of messed up, but at least it's on the bottom of the plane, so it really is not noticeable. So now moving on to the third model. This is the Alaska Airlines West Coast Wonders 737, or in the Orca livery. So this one has the same cockpit window coloring as on the Freedom 1 737. These ones are a little less crooked than on the Freedom 1, but they still do have a little bit of crookedness to them. They are in the sort of whitish gray, or really light gray coloring on there. In this one, these cockpit windows sort of have a messed up print on them, sort of a misprint there. You can kind of see some of the blue coloring in the back there and some smudges on it. But overall, it really isn't too bad, but it still is kind of noticeable. Behind the cockpit windows are the first main cabin door. For some reason, this one is kind of like extended up a little bit and a lot more skinny than it should be. On both of these, it kind of has the same front cabin door. Behind that is Alaska Airlines logo in their white coloring there, with all of the cabin windows, which are nicely centered on this plane. Then you have the first Orca displayed on the back there, the second one, and then the third one. Really nicely detailed print displayed on this particular model, and then the engines are just in the generic navy blue coloring that the whole entire fuselage is originally painted in, and then with nice wave pattern towards the back. Then there is the registration number with N932AK with the American flag, and then the other details. My favorite part of the plane is, of course, the really nice detail on the tail. Of course, you can definitely tell what kind of print this is, really, just because of the fact that it's still kind of blurry. It's not this highly detailed thing like Daron would probably have if they did have it painted or printed on the plane, or even if it was a sticker, but still really nicely detailed considering this is a knockoff. It's still considered as a knockoff model. And the fact that, honestly, Daron is never going to make any sort of special livery model, so, which is definitely why these are worth getting. So then, all the other details are pretty much exactly the same as on the other models, no other details, and on the bottom here, I really don't know what the actual undercarriage looks like on the actual aircraft, but these ones definitely have some kind of like spacing there for where the print meets up on the bottom of the plane, and then you could see the navy blue on the bottom, but overall really isn't too bad, kind of adds to the extra character to this particular model. So moving on to the fourth model out of these ones. This one is the Azul 737. So this model has the most crooked cockpit windows out of all of them. They are all in the same coloring for some reason. For some reason, I don't know if it's common in like this color of cockpit windows, because all of them are crooked that have this light gray coloring on it, and all of them are kind of smudged as well. I don't know if that's like a common thing for all of these. But behind that, there is the first logo for the Azul Airlines design, which has the whole country of Brazil displayed there. First cabin door, Azul logo in the light blue coloring. Then for their special livery design, they have the navy blue goes into the light green, and then more of a yellowish green there, and then back into the darker navy blue, and then the yellowish green, light green, and then the navy blue again on the tail, with the yellowish green on the tail. So then the cabin windows on this plane are nicely centered, just like on the Tennessee 1 and the Alaska 737. Then there, I don't exactly know how to pronounce this, but there's this nice details for the Brazilian flag displayed in the center of the fuselage, with a nice star pattern on the engines as well, with the dark navy blue coloring there. And then the third and then fourth cabin windows displayed throughout the rest of the plane, and then their nice tail design for their special livery, which is, again, the whole country of Brazil, and then all of the extra states inside of it. So, like I said also before, this one does have some misprints specifically on the right side. The left side is pretty good, but the right side does have some misprints here, like some weird yellow smudging there. I could probably take it off if I want to. I might try to fix it up a bit. And there is a paint bubble that is up here for inside of the light green towards the back of the plane, right near the tail. So That is kind of disappointing, the fact that this one is like the most expensive one and has the most issues out of all of them. So, but I guess since this one does have a lot more details than some of the other models, apart from Freedom 1 and the Alaska one also having some nice details, this one I guess is more prone to having some more misprints. So moving on to the last model out of the 5 is the Delta Airlines Classic Widget livery design. So this one has the black pocket windows, and these ones, like I just said about Tennessee 1, these ones have really nice, really nicely centered cup windows. These ones are not crooked at all. Has the really, for some reason, the black design on the nose makes it look a lot larger than it actually is. Then there's the Delta logo, that's the Delta Airlines Widget logo displayed right there behind the cockpit windows. The first main cabin door is really far up along the plane. I'm not sure if the windows are supposed to be something for the 767 or what, but they definitely should have had the window pattern a lot further up, because the fact that there's no other details to kind of substitute for it, such as on Freedom 1, they have the flag details. This one, it just makes the top of the fuselage have a really large white, just blank space up at the top. Then there's the Delta Airlines logo right there towards the front of the plane with the Spirit of Delta sticker right there. That's also how you know how this is for the 767, because the 737s never had these particular planes. Has never had this particular livery design in their fleet. Then there is all of the cabin windows displayed throughout the plane. They're really far down. I really don't understand why exactly the print is still so far down. But then there's also nice details on the engines. There's a Delta Widget logo with Delta displayed right there. And I really don't remember. I don't remember what exactly this blue dot is, if that's actually on the actual plane or not. But moving on to the back of the plane, there is the registration number with the American flag, and then the registration number for this is N102DA, and then the rear cabin door with the Boeing 7, yeah, this one has Boeing 767 displayed on it, so that's definitely how you know this is not the right plane. Yeah, and you can definitely see that texture right in there, and what part of it makes it blurry when the light is shone up to it. Then there's the Delta Widget logo displayed on the tail with the numbering for the registration number 102 displayed right there. And then all the other details on the bottom of the plane. No details on the undercarriage for this particular model. And this one does have some really wobbly horizontal stabilizers that I need to fix. So that pretty much is all the review for these 5 models. So once again, the links to all of these models are posted in the description for both the Amazon and the Temu listings. And unfortunately, though, the one thing I will say is beware when you do buy these, they will most likely come in some sort of banged up box. So unfortunately, I did see that some horizontal stabilizers may even come with like completely broken off from the plane. So just be aware that these models are not going to be perfect, which is kind of why I would suggest buying them off of Temu, because they're cheaper prices. And if they're going to arrive banged up anyway, I'd rather get it for a lower price than paying $22 for Freedom 1 off of Amazon just for it to have crooked cockpit windows and then wobbly horizontal stabilizers. I know some other models definitely will have some wobbly nose gear as well. So there are definitely a large variety of these models to choose from Aviamuse. Some other details on the box, like I said before, there's really nothing to tell the difference between which one is coming in it. So, but they do have the specific airline listed and registration number. If there's different ones for that specific airline listed on the front where the barcode is. And then on the back here for the sticker, another indicator why I kind of feel like this brand is kind of going to fall under very soon. There's no detail on the box. They're very banged up. And the fact that the product name for these models are literally Toy Plane, which is like no details. They have the model number right there. Country of origin, where it was produced, is in China, of course. And the manufacturer for these models, so Aviamuse does not actually build these planes. They are manufactured by whoever that is. I am not going to try to say that. But address for it right there, and pretty much any other details you need are displayed right there. So Aviamuse doesn't actually manufacture these planes, but they are the distributor for them. Once again, I really don't know how long these models are going to be in production, so I highly suggest you getting them as soon as you can. So, once again, the links are posted in the description of this video, so I would highly suggest getting them as soon as you can. So, Well, that pretty much is all the review for these models for this video. So if any of you have these models yet, or if you're just finding out about these now, let me know about your opinions about these models down in the comments below, or once you get them, let me know how they are when they arrive to you in your collection. So thank you all so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.